Hi everyone, I'm Dipali Kusrest, and once again I welcome you in this security session. So, this is going to be the fifth session in our security series, and it will be presented by our security expert Nitin Sharma. And I'm very proud that he is our own community member. So, and he's doing really a fabulous job in sharing his expertise with the community. So, as I mentioned, so far Nitin has covered four sessions already. Today it's going to be the fifth one. And then we have many other sessions lined up to brighten and sharpen our minds towards the application and data security. In today's session, Nitin is going to cover around S3 security, especially towards attacks, various breaches which can happen on S3 and how to defend them. So, Nitin, over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dipali. Thank you for the introduction. Let me share my screen once. I hope, Dipali, my screen is visible now.
Yes, Nitin, it is.
Okay, thank you. So today we are going to cover the fifth part of our AWS security series, which is dedicated towards S3 security, narrowing down it to attack and defense phase. So let's start with the agenda. So what we are having to cover is a brief introduction about myself, then how many attacks have been taken place, like what approaches or scenarios have been seen so far. But remember or try to understand that there are so many scenarios and so many breaches that have already been happened that it is very difficult to actually negotiate and try to mitigate every other issue related to AWS S3. So we will try to build up an approach which most of the organizations and security leaders are already following in. Next, we are going to understand about threat modeling and how we can apply the threat modeling to AWS S3. After that, we are going to discuss about preventing or detecting the attacks. Both are related to defensive ways. And lastly, we are going to discuss about a demonstration, like how as a engineer, what needs to be done and how we can take care of S3 breaches on our end. Who am I? A brief introduction about me. So I am a cybersecurity and DevSecOps professional experienced in cloud security, container security, and DevOps research. I have completed a few certifications related to AWS, which includes AWS security specialty also. I have completed also some other certifications which are vendor neutral, which includes Terraform Associate for infrastructure building, GitLab certified for CI/CD, some more vendor neutral certificates like CYSA Plus and Pentest Plus for attacking and defensive ways. And particularly talking about the cloud auditing, I have completed the CCSK version 4. I am also a published author and speaker and writer for this book, Securing Docker. So this also has been chosen as the Book Authority's Best New Docker Books winner. I have written another articles and contributed to cyber secrets publications as well, which includes articles related to Nmap, network security, TrickBot analysis, and so on. Usually when I'm not working, I will try to go and focus on my fitness, and there this I can achieve with the help of cycling and being a marathon runner. I also help out in my free time the beginners in cloud, DevOps, and secrets and cybersecurity at Quora. So let's start. Apart from this, when I have started the journey, most prominently related to S3, there are a lot of breaches, a lot of misconfigurations, and I was like a policeman who is going to find out which S3 bucket is going to get breached. Okay, this is a very familiar infographic from A Cloud Guru, and I can relate it to my life experiences as well. Let's start with the AWS S3 attack and breach scenarios. So the first scenario that we are going to cover here is public S3 bucket with customer data. This is the most easiest way that an attacker can get access to a customer data from S3 bucket if the bucket is configured as public to everyone. We already have discussed this in our previous session that AWS S3 buckets are usually misconfigured, and due to that, the data inside the S3 buckets is accessible to everyone on the internet. Now, this is the example from a very recent breach, like last month only. We have given the presentation after this date, I guess, but we failed to cover this. But yes, right now I am able to cover this, that this is related to a data breach where senior advisor is a kind of organization, and Whiskey's security researchers found out that there has been a compromise due to a misconfigured S3 bucket. So millions of people were left vulnerable in the misconfigured bucket, and the data getting compromised includes their usernames, surnames, phone numbers, and more. Senior Advisor is a company which is providing its services for senior care across United States and Canada. So it means a lot for the data being breached. There was no need for password or login credentials to access this information because the data was not encrypted and the buckets were public. So these two cases we are going to be discussed further also for preventing and detecting breaches on S3 buckets. Let's discuss about the second scenario. This is more tricky one because it will happen when someone will commit the GitHub code along with the secret access keys and access keys dedicated to a particular AWS environment. Now, with the help of those AWS environment secret access keys, attackers are able to scan the GitHub repositories. Right now, even when we are having this presentation onboarded, some attacker in the world is already going to scan the repositories in GitHub, and it is a continuous way. Like every time, whenever someone make a commit for the public repositories, most of the attackers are always looking for secrets, access keys, and AWS secrets for getting the account privileges or getting any kind of permissions related to the S3 buckets. So in case if they will get these secrets, they will be able to get into the AWS account and can get access to the customer buckets from the GitHub exposed secret access keys. Now, if you can see this example here, the image shown is an example when you have accidentally committed the AWS access key for any of your organization AWS account. So you might receive an email, okay, that corresponding secret key is being exposed. And right now it is from your IAM's credential and exposes a security risk to your AWS account. This might incur unauthorized activity or abuse and violates the AWS customer agreement. Right now, what we have seen so far, along with some of the researchers, this email will occur almost in approximately 60 seconds to 6 minutes of interval. Let's say I have committed a secret access key and access key right now. So when you can have this email, this is actually a best practice from AWS itself, that they are also going to scan all the repositories along with the attackers itself. So it depends, like if you will get this email before the any attacker can find it out, or if you will receive this email later or you fail to get action on it, then you might get on risk, and you have to accept the risk because you have committed the access keys to a public repository or GitHub. Now, AWS has recently added a action item on automation, which is adding the policy AWS compromised key quarantine on the IAM user, which is having the particular access key listed. In this way, all the actions which are related to the IAM user attached to the for the access key are already being quarantined. So this will help limiting the permissions for high risk AWS services and protecting the AWS account. Let's see this next scenario. The next scenario is a very new one, and I guess everybody is aware of ransomware attacks. So to provide a brief overview about ransomware first, before moving forward with the scenario 3, what happens in ransomware attacks is your data will get compromised because your system or network got compromised first. So when attacker is having an access to your network, they will try to put some script or kind of communication way so that they can get all the information from your servers. Unless your information is encrypted or you are having backup, the information that attackers are getting, they try to encrypt the information present on your servers. Now, until a certain time interval, they will ask you for a ransom to be paid so that they can share with you the encryption key. This is how a ransomware scenario will work. I guess most of the viewers are already aware of NotePTR ransomware and kind of attacks. Now, in this case, what we are going to have is attackers encrypting S3 buckets in victim AWS accounts with their own KMS key. So how this attack will occur is attacker creates a KMS key in their own personal account. Now, with this KMS key, they are going to share it to the uh, world itself, like internet accessible KMS key. Okay. Then after that, they are going to identify a target S3 bucket to which they are already having a right level access. Now they try to identify if they are already having the right level access, or they will try to escalate the privileges to get the right level access. Now, if they are having the right level access, what they will do is they will try to see the configuration of the buckets. This configuration mostly will include related to the object versioning and MFA enablement. In case if none of this is there, so what they will do is they will do some API calls and they will create new copy of the S3 content. Now this S3 content which is being copied to the bucket is actually the encrypted content of the original one. So this is how they will change or replace every content present in the S3 bucket to the encrypted content of the same original content. And then they will schedule the deletion of the KMS key. And after that, the major action they will take is they will inform the organization or the victim targeted for the ransomware attack that pay the ransom amount if you want the data back. Otherwise, we are going to have delete all the data. So this is how this attack will work. This is S3 ransomware scenario. Now, we have discussed so far 3 scenarios for attack and breaches via AWS S3 buckets. But this is not the end. There could be n number of scenarios that can occur and that can need to be tackled for AWS S3 attackers. So we need to find an efficient way to address the attacker concerns, like what needs to be done on our side or the victim or organization side, so that these attackers cannot get the access to AWS S3. One of the prominent way that is being suggested by most of the cloud security researchers as well is threat modeling. Like it is based on shift left philosophy, where you have to scan, you have to identify all the possible mitigations or threat actors that could compromise or potentially impact the S3 buckets, and that could result in a breach kind of scenario. So let's focus on this threat modeling idea first with an introduction, a very brief introduction, and then how it can be applied with the S3 bucket thing. So threat modeling introduction, high level. Threat is any circumstance or event with the potential to harm an information system through unauthorized access, destruction, disclosure, modification of data, and/or denial of service. This threat is can be defined with the following definition, but however, any kind of unintended access can be considered as a possible or potential threat. Now, there are examples provided like unauthorized access, destruction, disclosure, modification of data, but this is not limited to it. So what needs to be done is we need to do a threat modeling. We have to achieve a kind of design documentation and diagram so that we will understand what threats can happen at that particular phase or time. And then after that, we have to mitigate all threats at the same interval of time. Because afterwards, either those threats could become more vulnerable, or those threats could become unmitigated, or like the mitigation could be very difficult to achieve. Now, threat modeling is a design time activity. Like most of the threat modeling has need to be done in the design phase of your secure software development lifecycle. Now, the core steps of threat modeling will include identify assets, actors, entry points, components, use cases, and trust levels, and include these in a design diagram. What you need is you need a document that will specify all these scenarios related to assets and actors such that you can try and understand how how an attacker can compromise that particular architecture. After that, in second step, you need to identify a list of threats. For each kind of scenario asset actors, you need to identify a list of threats, and then per threat, identify mitigations which may include security control implementations. The third step is very important because there could be some times that you might not be able to implement the controls itself. And that is the time where an organization's leadership need to understand this and accept the risk. This is how it works in most of the organizations. Now, fourth step is create and review a risk matrix to determine if the threat is adequately mitigated. Now, when you are going to review it, there could be some sort of testing or validation scenarios. For example, there is a public S3 bucket. Let's say this is a kind of scenario and you have to mitigate it. So what needs to be done is you need to check if you have mitigated this concern. No S3 bucket from your organization AWS account will be accessible to public or internet worldwide. So if this is mitigated, your testing and validation results should also result in the same alignment. Let's move forward along with the AWS S3 concern, focusing more on it. But first, we have to discuss about MITRE attack matrix for AWS S3. Now, modern adversaries or attackers are discussed with a probability of like having an attack. For example, if an organization is going to face an attack, there should be a path that an attacker has followed. Now, this path could differ in variety of terms, but in modern cyber kill chain, okay, this we call as cyber kill chain. And if we want to disrupt the cyber kill chain, what we have to understand is what exact are the most probable steps that an attacker is going to take for compromising the account. For AWS S3, right now what we are able to observe or address is there are kind of 11 steps in the cyber kill chain from MITRE attack framework. There is another one which is Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain, but we are going to discuss the MITRE attack framework cyber kill chain because this is more prominently being followed in the industry right now. Now, this cyber kill chain is very kind of universal, where there are 11 steps, and then we have to map what kind of tactics, like what tactics are attackers are going to achieve, what techniques they are going to follow to fulfill their tactics, and what is the procedures or common knowledge that they are going to have or we need to understand to address these kind of concerns. So here you can see 11 kind of tactics that has been mentioned. First is initial access, how the attacker will get access. Second is execution, in case if they want to run any kind of script or something. Third is persistence, like they need to maintain a kind of persistence in the environment so that they can formulate more time or can have more time to actually get to the data to understand better about that network. In case if the present permissions that they are having, they are not able to get inside more or get deeper insights around the knowledge of the network being targeted, what they will try to do is privilege escalation. They will try to gain more privileges inside the network. After that, what they will do is they will try to evade the defense mechanisms in the organization itself. For example, let's say they have a script, they don't want it to get detected by the Microsoft antivirus. So they will write something in the same way that this will get evaded by the antivirus scan. Sixth step is credential access. They might want to see if the machine they have get the privileges on having any kind of credentials stored in the storage system of that machine. Next, they will try to understand what else they can discover. For example, the machine is a part of DC environment, and let's say in the worst case scenario, they got uh, access to the actual DC machine. So then they have whole lot of information about what inventory of servers they are having from the DC, managing from the DC by the organization. Now the next will be lateral movement, like spreading that ransom, their virus or their script kind of C2 communication for lateral movement into another machines in the network present. Ninth step will be collection. Once their script or kind of virus or ransomware is present in all the machines, they will start collecting the data from there. After that, they will exfiltrate the data, and then impact will be any kind of additional efforts that they have done to actually break the bone of the organization. So in these cases, if you can see, some of the tables, some of the columns in this table are empty, because for S3, AWS S3 MITRE ATT&CK matrix, there might not be a case for initial access or execution or persistence. But yes, privilege escalation could be there. For example, gaining access by modifying or deleting important object tags. So if they will remove the object tags, there might be permission related to tags only. And once the tags are removed, they will get the additional permission to all the other different buckets. And there might be cases related to defense evasion. I'm trying to elaborate more on MITRE ATT&CK because this is the standard being followed in the industry for threat and adversaries and intelligence stuff. And next, we are going to approach like how these tactics can help us, like T1, T2, T3. These tactics can help us in order to understand more and map the security controls. So let's move ahead. This is how the data flow diagram could look like. Now there is a lot of information in this diagram, but for threat modeling to be understood for S3, not only the AWS S3 buckets are the target, because there could be a lot of different things in the AWS environment itself with which the S3 buckets are interacting or are being responsible for the stuff. So for example, if you can see here the first one, there could be a context of S3 buckets getting accessed via public endpoints. So a non-AWS user is able to access it via public endpoint. If there is an AWS account associated, so IAM entities from that AWS account are able to access the S3 bucket content from S3 access points. Now there could be IAM entities from other accounts as well that can access via public endpoints as well as access via S3 access points. Now you can see everywhere there are some red lines or red text mentioned here. So all these red lines or red text mentioned here in the data flow diagram represents the threat, the agent for which control can be put on. For example, here, if we need to limit the access, we can put IAM policies or SCPs. For here to put the access, like any kind of API call getting outside of the environment, there could be a perimeter security, kind of firewall. For any kind of access up to the bucket level and after that to the object, you can have object ACL, object version ACL, and CMK policy, CMK customer master key, KMS policy. Things like that are mentioned everywhere. For example, access to KMS via CMK policy can be monitored. Access to Lambda can be mitigated with Lambda IAM role. So all these red stuff, red line and stuff help us to mitigate security concerns related to threat actors. Now, I would like to give a credit here to trustoncloud.com for this particular threat model, because this is available under Creative Commons license and attribution, and everybody is free to use it, provided that they can give the credits to the trustoncloud.com. Now, moving ahead from here, your architecture might be different and might not include or might not cover all the scenarios that you are able to see here. So what the basic necessity from the threat modeling of AWS S3 will be, just have your architecture diagram like this in place, and then try to identify the trust boundaries over there. Those trust boundaries, if actually acknowledged with much expertise related to security controls, then it is very much available to understand like how a threat actor can compromise the S3 buckets or the objects present in the AWS account. Let's move ahead. So talking about very specifically threat modeling for AWS S3, what needs to be done is pick one feature of S3. Now there could be different classes or features from S3 involved in your data flow diagram. Let's go back to the data flow diagram again. Now the first class of S3, as you are able to see here, is the buckets. Now the second feature or class that S3 provides us, it could be objects. Now the third feature that you can understand from this diagram could be version. Now there could be another features like encryption, logging, things like that S3 bucket controls can be put on. So these are the features provided by AWS for S3. And during the threat modeling, we need to understand which feature of the S3 is there in the data flow diagram and what are the threats associated to that. Next will be identify associated IAM or bucket actions. Whatever the feature you are going to tackle for the threats, you need to understand how it is related or how the security controls can be put on. Mostly, this could be done with the help of identity access management or the bucket actions associated. Third step in this threat modeling will be create threat list and map it to MITRE attack. We have already seen like what are the tactics with the MITRE attack, and we will see how it can be mapped with a threat matrix. Next will be set security control objectives and priorities. This is important from risk management, auditing, and technical security perspective. Like whatever the control needs to be put on, what are the objectives while putting those security controls, and how to prioritize, like which security control needs to be put down as soon as possible, and what security control can wait up to 1 month or 2 months, and so on. Last step in this threat modeling process will be testing and validation. Mostly it related to defensive ways because this has been done in the design phase itself and the product is not onboarded yet or not complete. So they are related to defensive ways for securing the AWS S3. So let's start with each of the steps in threat modeling for AWS S3 in more in depth. So first one, pick one feature of S3 involved in your data flow diagram. The first feature that I have picked for this presentation is object upload or download. Now there could be n number of scenarios, but I have selected this one randomly. Object upload and download usually is a feature where a person or organization IAM user can upload and download virtually any number of objects to an external S3 bucket. Now, there could be a limitation that or a security boundary that can be assessed as authorized to, whether the person is able to, if the bucket is public right is there, right ACP access control policy is there, then anyone from the internet access, anyone having the internet access will be able to upload the objects to the S3 bucket or download the objects from there. If that is an IAM user, there could be an authorization policy related to S3 bucket actions or IAM. So next we will see identify associated IAM bucket actions. So the actions could be retrieve an object from Amazon S3. So this can relate to IAM permission, which is S3 get object. Next is action adds an object to a bucket. A user is able to upload the object. This is to download the first one. The second one is to upload the object to the bucket. So the IAM action associated is S3 put object. Third is sets the access control list permissions for an object. You must have right ACP permission to set the ACL of an object. Like putting the object ACL is the related ACL permissions. With the help of access control list permissions for an object, an attacker can also do things which are not relevant to him, and which is why this is very important that not every user or public user should have right access control permissions to set the ACL of an object. Let's move on further. After knowing this, completing the second step, the third step is create a threat list and threat map with MITRE. Now, with respect to the threat list, there could be a possible outcomes that we have already talked about, like n number of scenarios. So let's go through a few. The first one here is exfiltrate your data hosted on an external bucket by using of a compromised IAM access from internet. Let's say there is a IAM user whose access keys or secret keys got compromised. With the help of that, the attacker is able to exfiltrate the data hosted on an external bucket. Now, this could also be done when an attacker bucket using a non-authenticated user, like here the compromised IAM user was there, but in second place, this could be done by unauthorized external IAM entity also by S3 VPC endpoints. So S3 VPC endpoints are always provided for accessing the S3 data for a limited users. But in case if the policy will say principal star or something like that, so that particular S3 VPC endpoint for that S3 bucket will be accessible to entire world. Now, third case will be exfiltrate data stored on S3 via AWS services. Exfiltrate data to an attacker bucket via public endpoint. So all these scenarios constitutes the kind of a threat list that one need to assess. Now, according to the threat list and threat modeling, what is the next step is to threat map with MITRE. So what needs to be done is for a particular threat, there could be a kind of goal associated to the attacker. For example, exfiltrating your data hosted on an external bucket by using of a compromised IAM access from internet is associated to data theft. The attacker want to have data which is stored in the S3 bucket with the help of compromised IAM. Now, since the IAM credentials are compromised, an attacker use a compromised but authorized credentials. Okay. The second thing here is you need to identify the threat. You have to understand the goal related to the threat. Now, this is the actual tactic which is associated to MITRE attack framework. After this mapping, the next step could be setting the security control objectives and priorities. Now, the control objectives here to be put on for addressing this threat, exfiltrate your data, will be identify and ensure the protection all external buckets hosting your objects. This could be done with the help of control hosting your objects, define authorized data classification, identify respective owners like account ID, what are the object ACL requirements, who is the S3 bucket object ownership if it is there. So these kind of stuff will be needed. The second will be enforce good coding practice. So these all are control objectives which needs to be identified before putting the security controls. Now, most of the time you will see here, because we already have discussed in previous session that either that could be a preventative or a detective control. So what are these directive controls column that we are able to see, and it is mentioned here as 1 everywhere. Directive controls, okay, let's start with preventive first. So preventative controls are the ones which will prevent the attacker to do any kind of malicious intended activity. This could be, for example, let's say uh, someone tries to have an attack on the S3 bucket. To prevent it, what we have done is we have blocked the public access to the S3 bucket. So any other user present in the internet does not have the capability to access that particular bucket. So this way we are going to prevent the attack. For detective controls, what we are going to do is logging. Let's say even after that, there is a compromised access keys and you are able to access that particular bucket. So what needs to be done is someone has to get an alarm, okay, that that bucket is particularly getting accessed by someone who is not authorized or intended to have to do so. This kind of control is detective control. Now, coming back to the directive control, these are very specific controls which provide us the guidance to achieve the very specific tasks. For example, monitoring S3 with Amazon Guard Duty Macie is a directive control. This is very specific control and it requires specific knowledge related to Guard Duty and Macie, how they work and how you can monitor the S3 buckets with the help of these services. It requires guidance, training, and follow the related procedure. But preventative or detective controls could be same in a way and could be a broad hierarchy of controls because they can be addressed with the help of guidance even, or we can have them for only the prevention or the detection itself. So this is how we can differentiate between directive, preventative, or detective controls. Now, moving forward, most broad categories usually include preventative and detective controls, and these are also defined by AWS also. But what we are referring is the threat modeling from Trust on Cloud, and it's been identified as a directive control because very specific training or guidance is required to observe these security controls in good place. Moving ahead, the last step, if you are going to put those controls, is to identify and attest that yes, these controls are in place and they are working perfectly all right. So we have talked about the directive control previously, which was related to S3.T3, threat or tactic. So what we need to do is the control is identify all buckets you don't control hosting your objects, define their authorized data classification. Now, data classification is particularly very important because it could be an internal data which harms less as compared to the customer data in case it got compromised. There will be a lot of reputation loss. There could be compromises related to GDPR or CCPA kind of laws. So data classification is important. Identify their respective owners and AWS account ID, their object ACL requirements like S3 object ownership, and get assured for the protection. Example through contractual agreement verified by assurance programs or using this threat model. To attest this security control, what is the necessary testing that could be done? This testing could be request the list of all authorized external buckets authorized to host your objects, their respective owners. Like you have to run a scan, you have to find out what all external buckets are there, how many of those external buckets are authorized to get accessible for the object concern, and then identify the respective owners if the data classification is as per the mandate. If there is something which is critical and should not be there in the bucket object, that should be removed. So this testing needs to be done. Similarly, there could be a number of different controls, and this is only for the first one. So if you are able to see here, let's go a little backwards. What we had is, we had first the object upload. We have to first pick the feature. We have picked the feature. After that, we have found out the bucket actions or associated IAM permissions. Next, we have found out next we have created all the threat list. So this threat list will include all kind of threats associated to that particular feature. For first, for every threat that is having, there could be a kind of goal or associated MITRE attack matrix stuff. Okay. After that, for every security control, there should be some objectives and priorities you have to set or define. Once these are defined, for every security control, there should be a testing. So it is a continuous process where security team needs to involve and assess all kind of scenarios. And once it is done, the threat modeling is complete. But it depends on data flow diagrams, like what are the architecture representations already there and what are the threats that could be assessed. On the basis of that, all these steps can be recursively followed. Now, coming to the last slide of this presentation, here we can see the same slide that we also have seen in the previous one, AWS S3 security best practices. Until now, whatever we have followed is a process that needs to be aligned with for threat modeling and identifying the threats and attacker scenarios. Right now, we are talking about the defensive ways where preventative or monitoring and auditing, like detective actions, could be achieved. So preventative actions are correct policies and no public access, least privilege access, use of IAM roles to access S3 buckets, MFA delete enablement, encryption at rest, and so on. For monitoring and auditing, detective actions are identify and audit all S3 activities, monitoring S3 bucket API calls, enabling S3 server access logging, and so on. To cover some of them, because in this time frame it is not possible for me to achieve every other aspect of preventative and monitoring detective security best practices, I would like to have you this link, which is on the AWS documentation, security best practices for Amazon S3. Now all the controls are presented here with appropriate links, and you can follow them to understand better like how it could be done. While to finalize this presentation, I have included a little demo here. So I already have my S3 management console here, and we have demonstrated a very level 100 kind of stuff in demo AWS UGNCR bucket one with our previous session. So let's start with this. And I also want to cover one security tool, which is S3 audit. So let me keep this aside here and open my terminal. So I already have configured, one second, let me increase the font size. Yes. So we are in the S3 console and I already have demo AWS UG NCR bucket 1. So the tool I'm talking about is S3 audit. Let's see what this tool provides with the capabilities. This is an open source tool provided by Scale Factory, I guess. And this is S3 audit. And what you need to do to run the command is you just need to provide the bucket name and you just need to get the output either in the form of CSV or it could be in the console format. The options provided with this tool includes disable check, like whatever the checks provided with this tool. For example, you need to check if public access configuration is there, if versioning is enabled or not, if encryption is there or not, if MFA delete is present for the objects, if a website is hosted for the S3 bucket, what is the policy, if principal star is provided, access control list for object access, logging is enabled on the bucket or not, if the bucket is configured with CloudFront or not. So these could be either disabled or enabled, like whether this needs to be checked or not. They are not going to enable this particularly, but they will tell you whether this configuration is present or not. And -d and -e option can be observed with the help of all these permissions provided. So let's see how it works. So S3 audit, and I want to provide the bucket name as the one that you're able to see, demo AWS UG NCR bucket 1, demo AWS UG NCR bucket 1. And what all the checks I want to perform to audit this. So I want to hyphen enable. Okay, let's start with the every check that it can perform. So I will not give any kind of input to that for that. Format console. And here you can see what all the checks are being performed on this AWS UG NCR bucket. So it is said checking worst bucket, demo AWS UG NCR bucket 1. Then it is providing me bucket public access configuration, block public ACLs, ignore public ACLs. All these permissions are correct because you can see the green tick mark. Server-side encryption is enabled, object versioning is enabled, MFA delete is enabled, static website hosting is disabled. So all these green checks are here. So which means that yes, our audit is fine and the bucket is secure. Let's see if I wanted to only check one policy related to ACL, hyphen enable hyphen check equals ACL. Yes. So you can see that when you're not providing any option, you will get everything by default. But when you are providing an action, then it will provide the only result associated to that action. So this is a particularly secure bucket. But what about like if you have configured or created a bucket by default? So whether it is secure or not. To assess these kind of concerns, let's create one bucket here, which is demo AWS UG NCR bucket 2. And right now I'm purposefully turning off the public access here, blockage of public access here, and I will acknowledge. And this is the best way AWS can guide you or recommend you about the security practices. I have no tag, everything is fine. Create bucket. Now we have demo AWS and UG NCR bucket 2. Here also you can see objects can be public, but right now they are not public. So let's go to the configuration of this bucket. And let's upload some demo object here. So here is the object, upload. Now I want to observe certain kind of behavior with this AWS S3 bucket to demonstrate if the S3 audit tool is working fine or not. So let's go again to the bucket. This is the bucket. Now go into the permissions. In the permissions, you can see there is nothing to display. So I want to edit this policy, and I will purposefully put a public bucket access policy, which I have already written here. This one. So I'll put here this policy. The bucket name we are having is 2. And before that, for example, what are the flaws in this policy? Let's understand that first. Principal star is a flaw. It should be either some ARN or it should be a very limited permission, because we are providing actions like get object or get version on this bucket to principal star, which is everyone else in the world, for all the objects present in this demo AWS UGNCR bucket. Now, since I have already enabled IAM Access Analyzer with our session, primarily the second session that we had for IAM, here you can see that console analyzer is enabled. So if I wanted to preview this, it will tell me the shortcomings of this policy. See, new, public, external principal, all principals. And this is the finding that I have to remediate, but I don't want to do it right now. Let's understand first if the S3 audit is able to find it out. So let's save this changes. Now this is perfectly publicly accessible bucket. Let's move to the S3 audit again. And now I'm going to run this tool for every permission that we are having for AWS UGNCR bucket 2. So here you can see a lot of shortcomings, like block public ACL is set to false, ignore public ACL is set to false, block public policy is set to false, server-side encryption is not enabled, object versioning is not enabled, MFA delete is not enabled, bucket policy contains wildcard entries, principal star as we can see, logging is not enabled for this bucket. And now what we are going to do is we will address all these concerns practically and hands-on. So let's start with the first one, that bucket public access configuration. We can do that by a few clicks. So let's go here, block public access settings, edit, enable this, save changes, right here, confirm, and you will be able to change the permissions. Here you can see access only authorized users of this account. So right now, this block public access control supersedes the bucket policy. Okay, so the control you can see here, principal star, is not valid and applicable anymore. And this is applicable for superseding the bucket S3 bucket policy. Now let's run the scan again, audit. And you can see here that yes, bucket public access configuration is done. Okay, so this is the first step. The second is, it is saying server-side encryption is not enabled. Okay, so let's go to the bucket again. Here you can see in the properties tag, bucket overview, bucket versioning, default encryption. Let's edit this. You can see server-side encryption. Okay, enable. Now this will provide two options: to upload an object with a customer provided encryption key, or use like it could be via SSE S3. So it will be default, and this could be done by the AWS itself. The key is being managed by the AWS. Now the AWS KMS, if you will select, so it will ask you whether you want the key being managed. Okay, default encryption is just kind of encryption. When you are going to download the object, it will not come out as encrypted. While for AWS managed, while for key-based encryption, it could be SSE KMS. Now SSE KMS could be when you are managing the key or when AWS is managing the key. So choose from your AWS KMS keys. I am not having any KMS key because my KMS list is empty. I do not have utilized that. So I will try to use AWS managed KMS key. Now, as a security enthusiast, I would like to provide a tip here that if there is a customer data involved, it is highly recommended to choose from your AWS KMS keys and not to choose the AWS managed KMS keys, because that will be a risk and that could even resolve out to a compliance breach. So this is the thing. So let's enable default encryption only for now, because it is only a demonstration here. So I have enabled this. Let's go back to the terminal to check if it is taking effect or not. Here it is. Yes. So you can see here previously server-side encryption was not enabled, while right now server-side encryption is enabled. Now let's go back and see for the next target, which is object versioning is not enabled. So let's go to the bucket here. And you can see here the second option is bucket versioning. So versioning is means of keeping the multiple variants of an object in the same bucket. For example, right now we are having in this bucket object as demo object.png. Now, if I have the same name object again to be downloaded or uploaded into this, again to be uploaded of course in this bucket. So the bucket is having a configuration so that it will manage, this could be version 1. The next time I'm going to upload this, that could be version 2, and so on. Now going back to the properties again, let's edit this and enable this control. So here you can see the information. After enabling bucket versioning, you might need to update your lifecycle rules to manage previous versions of the objects. Okay, fine. Let's save the changes. So now bucket versioning is enabled. Go back to the terminal, run the scan again, and object versioning is enabled. Now I would like to halt MFA delete is not enabled for now. Let's go back to the bucket policy contains wildcard entities, this one. So here we can see in the permissions, we have provided principal star. So this is a wildcard policy. So I would like to edit this policy. I already have managed one policy, which is here. Let's understand what it means. So according to this policy, only the principal which is associated to this AWS account, like any entity which is associated to this public account, this AWS account will be able to access the resources present in this S3 bucket. So let's preview it again, because previously we have done that and we found out some findings. Right now, IAM Access Analyzer could not create the access preview due to invalid resource configuration. Okay, your bucket policy is not valid. For tips on, okay, there is something invalid. Okay, I got it. The bucket name is different. Okay, let's preview it again. Okay, no findings. Even if you are having the bucket name different, it is telling you that the bucket policy is not valid. So I'm amazed to see that IAM Access Analyzer is having this much capability. So right now the policy preview is going fine. There are no security findings on that. Let's save it. Now go back to the S3 and run the scan again. And now you'll be able to see that, yes, bucket policy doesn't allow wildcard entry. Previously, it was allowing wildcard entries. Now we know the reason also. The next is logging is not enabled. So let's go back again to the properties. And here you can see bucket versioning is there. Server access logging. Let's edit this, enable it. By enabling server access logging, S3 console will automatically update your bucket ACL to include access to the S3 log delivery code. Okay, fine. Now the bucket I want to have the access logs is AC logs demo. I created this in the morning itself. Let's have it. So now I have enabled the access logging itself. Here you can see enabled. And if we are going to check it based on that open source tool S3 audit. So let's run that. Okay, great. So I have logging enabled, bucket is not associated with any CloudFront distribution. Everything is fine, everything is green. The only thing is MFA delete is not enabled. Now here is the advice related to MFA delete option. Only critical buckets that are related to either customer or something, because need to be having MFA delete enabled, and this is very closely associated to object versioning. MFA delete requires MFA delete enablement requires root credentials to be utilized, and it should work in coherence with object versioning. Object versioning is mandatory for MFA delete. Third thing is MFA delete work with your MFA device for root user credentials, and this will also require root access keys to be present. So some of the organizations already have a policy that a root user should not have an access key. Okay, this is also present in the CIS benchmarks, AWS CIS benchmarks. So in case if this is the scenario, it might be acceptable that MFA delete is not there or not present. But for the demonstration purpose, let's see if we can have this MFA delete enabled here. So since I have already said that object versioning should work with MFA delete in coherence, and it should only be enabled with the help of CLI, let's go to properties, edit this, and suspend the versioning. Acknowledge this. I do not recommend to do this in your production account because you might not be having any root account access, and this might create unintended behavior in your S3 buckets. So be aware of this. This is only for demonstration purposes. Let's save changes. Now for CLI access. So I already have the root account credentials set it up with the profile root. So I'm going to see what command I have to run for this. So MFA delete and versioning, what I have to do is I have to run this. Let's understand this command first. So right now, as you are able to see, here it is saying AWS S3 API put bucket versioning. Okay, we have to use S3 API and put bucket versioning option method with the bucket name. Here I have provided the previous bucket. Now I have to use the switch versioning configuration because I already have told you that versioning and MFA delete works in coherence. So MFA delete needs to be enabled, and versioning also needs to be enabled. And then I have to provide my MFA serial number of the root account, and then the profile that I have already saved here. Now here also I have to pass the MFA token. So let me have this. This token need to be addressed with my current MFA device. So I have to look that up in my device, and I have to change the name of the bucket that we have created recently. So this is the bucket. Let's change the configuration. And give me a moment. Let me check my MFA token here. Done. So I'm done with the MFA delete enablement. Now, if I wanted to check, okay, I can check in the console itself, but I wanted to check this in here itself. Great. So we have every check enabled here. Checking first bucket, demo AWS UGNCR bucket 2. This we have created right now. The bucket public access configuration is fine. Block public ACLs is fine. Ignore public ACLs. All the bucket public access configurations are fine. Encryption is enabled. Object versioning is enabled. MFA delete is enabled. Static website, we do not have hosted anything. Bucket policy doesn't allow a wildcard entity. ACL doesn't allow access to everyone. Logging is enabled. Bucket is not associated with any CloudFront distributions. Now we have a limitation of time. Otherwise, I was looking forward to create another things related to the bucket and demonstrating like how the bucket object versioning will work with delete marker and everything. But yes,
So maybe Nitin, you can just talk about that. You can give some assignment to the audience so we can try it offline and can discuss it in the next session.
yes, sure. So what happens is once we have enabled the delete marker here, MFA delete here, when you are trying to delete the object, there is a delete marker which will be present on the object. Now, the bucket object will get vanished from your console. Once you are trying to delete the object, the bucket object will get vanished from the console itself. But since there is a delete marker present and MFA delete option is enabled over that bucket, you might not be able to see or understand you might not be able to see that object in your console, but there is a object present, and once you are going to upload another object in the same bucket, you will see both the objects present in the bucket itself. So this is how it works, and you need to use your MFA device to actually delete that bucket object.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin.
Yes,
So I think let us try, whosoever is watching online or offline, please try
sure.
this out and share the snapshots of the outcome. So I think that will help us understand that exactly if you have really followed up this concept.
Yes.
But yeah, Nitin, it
So
is again an insightful session, and especially I think this S3 audit feature. I think this is going to help us very much in our user use cases.
sure. Thank you so much, Dipali, for providing this opportunity to spread awareness and knowledge around AWS security.
Thanks, Nitin. Thanks for sharing your knowledge, and it's absolutely meaningful, um, especially I think for most of us and those who are not trying these hands-on with the sessions. Make sure that you spare some time to try these out, so you can leverage these features. You can leverage these learnings effectively in your use cases. Thanks, everyone. Please share if you have any feedback. I don't see any questions today, Nitin. So maybe you can watch out the YouTube channel offline in few days if you have any questions there. Thanks everyone for your time, and stay tuned. We will announce another session in the security series in 2 weeks' time.
Sure.
Thanks. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Thank you, Dipali.